Let's talk about a problem that I found during the testing of our JiGui. Hello everyone, this is Ali Reza. Welcome to the Mentor Code Lab. In previous video, I showed you that I have this GUI1 block and I was adding things there. And as you see, I added some textures that I had. I'm not happy with the looks. I may go down and tweak them later. These lights are again not the perfect ones, but the rest comes from vanilla. Anyway, the tabs are done, although I didn't change the values inside the JiGui yet. However, when I moved toward using the widget, I had two problems, actually three problems. The first one is the placement of the water. The second one is the size of the background being wrong. And the third one actually was the thing that I want to talk about it today. Now, if you recall, for the fluid widget, we have this screen util render tiled sprite. If we go there, we see that we are calling draw textured quad. And if you recall from our main tutorials or anywhere else, this draw textured quad is actually protected or private, I don't remember. So I had to add an access widener here for the JiGui that says that, hey, go into draw context and make the function draw texture quad accessible. When you are writing your main mod and doing everything inside a main mod, using access wideners are easiest way and have fun with it. That's okay. But when you are dealing with a library, things change. I was hoping that we wouldn't come face to face with the problem of this method being not accessible outside of the library. The reason is that the screen util is actually part of this JiGui library, and I was hoping that because it's an internal call inside the library, it would work. However, it didn't. The reason is how your library system works hand in hand with your main mod. Basically, at execution time, this fluid widget behaves like a solid class that is calling the screen utils, and the screen utils is not in the JiGui anymore. It's in your main mod. Basically, this class is being injected into your main mod. In other words, now your main mod will complain that draw texture quad is private and not accessible. So you have to add an access widener and add the access widener into your main mod. However, I don't like this approach. In my opinion, if I'm writing a library, anyone that is using the library is dealing with a black box. They shouldn't be bothered with the mechanics of that black box. In other words, if I need to open accessibility to any method inside my library, the user of the library shouldn't be aware of that and shouldn't be bothered with that. This means that now we don't need to have this access widener. Also, we don't need the mixin, but I will keep it there. And inside build.gradle for the test mod, now I need to comment this access widener, okay? Of course, I need to close the game, and now I need to resync my main mod. However, we have few problems. If you notice how the image was showing for the fluid, you will know that inside our fluid widget, I need to add a little bit of offset to this draw fluid. Basically, what I'm doing is that I'm saying that, hey, go into the top corner of the image on the background and use the rectangular offset. That's okay. And then I'm moving up. Well, guess what? I need to add the fluid dot height here. Not the fluid, actually. Fluid height. That's our fluid height. I need to have it because if I don't have it, then we are not moving down. We want to move toward the bottom of the tank and then go up as much as we need to draw the water or any other liquid. That's okay. We fixed that one. The other problem that we had with this widget was that the texture size was wrong. So if I go back and find the texture that I'm assigning, it's the background. The background, well, guess what? The width and height is wrong, both for background, for the marker, and for the marker small. Let's dive into Photoshop, and we see that it's 32 by 64. This is 16 by 64, and this is 16 by 64. So this one is 32 by 64, and these are 16 by 64. This number was wrong, and that caused us that weird look inside our GUI. I have problems related to tab values, but I will hold on to that for time being. Now, if I publish this to Maven again for the Maven local, using the publish to Maven local, and then resync my main test mod, I will have a runtime error and the game will crash because, again, we are coming back to this screen util draw texture quad. Now, draw texture quad is part of draw context. As you see, it now shows that it's public, but it wasn't. To see this behavior properly, I will comment this line. And now I need to resync the JiGui and come back when it's done. This is not how you put the comment. This is how you put the comment. Resync the Gradle. Don't forget, right now, we are not making draw texture quad public anymore. So let me close all of these and we'll talk about this when the sync is finished. Okay, as you see now we have problem here. It says that draw texture quad has private access. And if I middle mouse click on this to go into draw context, now I can see the real method. It was public final, but now we see that vanilla has a private call on this method. Is there any other option beside access wideners to make this work without forcing the users to come back and put access wideners here and there? Yes, there is. And it's a little bit of overkill in this case, but because we are working with libraries, we have to do it if we don't want to use access wideners. By the way, if I find any solution that will use access widener without forcing the users to add the access widener in future, I will inform you. However, until then, this is the solution that we want. If you look into Jiralib, I have the same solution. Actually, in access widener, I had this line and I did comment it. And then you see that I have a mixin. So I need a mixin, and because I need a mixin, I need an entry for the mixin in FMJ. So fabric mod JSON on the JiGui. After the environment, I will add a mixin and make sure that this is JiGui mixins JSON. Right now we don't have it. And I will copy this one. I will come back and paste it under resources. And now this should be JiGui. The JSON is always the same thing. The only thing that is changing is this guy mixins. Now we want to mix in to draw context. This is not a tutorial series on mixins, but I want to do it in front of the camera so that you see the process. I changed the package name for the mixin to be JiGui mixin. So here I need to add, actually, I think I will add the client mixin. And here I want a new package called mixin. Then I need this draw context mixin in here. So new Java class draw context mix. Just by doing so, the error here should be gone. It didn't go away. Why didn't it go away? Because this file is not a mixin file right now. So I will come back into here and I open it, and you see that other than my annotations, we have this @mixin thing. So let's go with annotations on top, and then I will add mixin, and it's from sponge powered ASM mixin. And then the class that we want to mixin into is draw context.class. If it didn't show up at the start, give few seconds to the system for the IntelliSense to find it. Now if I go back, you see that this error is gone. This one, don't bother. It will be fixed during build because of the process resources. Here, all we want to do is actually making this method public. So what I will do is that I will copy this whole thing, and then I need to find a way to somehow in my own class make it work. Now, to do that, I can say that outside of any method call inside the class, I have this and it's protected. Actually, let's make it public. And because it's a method that returns nothing, I will call it abstract. Okay. And I think it's void if I'm right. Yep. Let's close this guy. Let's go back here and void. If I remove that abstract keyword, we will have a problem because right now I want to close it. So it will not work. I have to put the abstract there. And because of that, I need to mark my class abstract too. So abstract, and now it's okay. Then I want to add a mixin somewhere. However, right now, if I follow forward, this doesn't make any sense. So I want to use @shadow. Shadow means that, hey, inside this class, I have something and I want to make sure that I'm shadowing this guy. I'm basically doing some change on it, okay? And the change is that make the architecture public. Now it says make it protected. I can't do that. And if I do that, then you will see what is the problem in few seconds. But right now I want to keep public. Then I want to have a method that is actually the same thing. So I will copy this, I will do it, and then it's not void, and I will say draw quad I will change the name basically so that we are not interfering with each other as the name of the methods. Funny enough, now I can say this dot draw texture quad with the render layers with the sprite, and the rest should be there: x1, x2, y1, y2, u1, u2, and then v1, v2, and finally color. Okay, what's going on here? When you are doing mixing, things become a little bit complex regarded to the keyword we have here, this. Normally, when you put this, it means this abstract class. However, mixins are different. During the runtime, this code will be injected into this vanilla class. At that time, the keyword this will refer to draw context. Because of that, now we are internally calling the private method inside the draw context, and it will work. Are we golden? Actually, no. If I want to call anything from here, for example, if I say context dot draw texture or draw, I don't know, whatever it is, textured quad, you see that we don't have access to that yet because mixins are working at runtime. On programming time, we don't have access to it yet. So somehow I should make sure that I get my hand on this class in my own code. The easiest way to do that is to have an interface. In Jiralib, you see that behavior. This interface is actually mimicking this method call, draw quad, okay? And I'm not sure, I may be able to go with this protected. Let's come follow that one because I will call draw quad here, okay? And to make things work, now inside here, I will add a package called interfaces. And as you see, the name is a little bit different. I will use accessor at the end. So I will add a Java class that is an interface, and I will call it iDrawContextAccessor. Now, iDrawContextAccessor is just like this. It's an interface, so I will get my annotations on top. And if we compare what we have inside block mixin here, we see that I have this method, void set a state manager with a new state manager. And inside here in the interface, I have the same thing, void set state manager with the parameter. In other words, whatever I have here as the method should be added inside the interface. Okay, that's the easiest part. And then we implement the iDrawContextAccessor. Just by doing it, now I will close these things. I made sure that somehow I can convert my own code that is dealing with draw context into this interface. And you can see that now I can say, I want to typecast to iDrawContextAccessor the context, and it will work right now. And then say dot draw quad with the rest of the code, just like so. And I will remove the previous code. Guess what? It doesn't yell at me. It doesn't have any problem because it assumes that I know that I'm correctly typecasting to this interface. And it is a correct typecasting because at runtime, my mixin will go into draw context and implement this interface on top of draw context, adding this method inside draw context from this interface. So I can simply do this. So from now on, each time I was using draw texture quad, I can go back and use my own code without having any problem. And it should work. Now, guess what? I had used the same trick inside Jiralib and I think inside gblock, because at gblock's constructor, yes, I had to get the state manager and then set the state manager, and the state manager was final. So if you look here in the mixin, I'm adding a mutable tag on top of the shadow. So I'm shadowing a field and then I'm making that field mutable. And the same thing happened. So if you look, I'm converting this block into my own instance because here we are mixing into block itself. And then I can call my own method from my own interface. Same deal is happening here. I'm injecting this interface onto draw context, and this interface has this draw quad. Then I can call that draw quad anywhere I want, considering that I know that this context is a draw context. So I just typecast it to my interface to be able to call the draw quad. Now here's something. It's says here that you can rename this to 3 underlines project, 3 underlines dollar draw quad. It's because we are doing shadows, but honestly, I'm not gonna do that because it says name does not match the pattern for adding mixing members. Well, that's okay. The code works. I think I had the same warning here or not. It says annotate field state manager as final. So if I do that, it's not solving that warning there. This is saying shadow for final member should be annotated as final. Okay, and if I do that, it's still doing something else. It says shadow for final should be annotated final. It's not behaving. Let's get it here maybe, and it's not behaving. Anyway, the problem is that, as you see here again, we get this does not match, and this code is actually working. It's confirmed. It was tested both in my main mod and even now in our test mod, because test mod is part of the G block call. So I'm okay with the naming warnings here. Actually, I can turn that warning off if I want to. Here I can say disable inspection, but I will keep it just in case. The only thing remaining is for me to go back and push this to Maven. Before doing that, I need to remove it from local Maven. So this is Maven local under my user, and here we go with finding the Jiraiya. All I need to do is remove this JiGui, and it's Maven local. One trick that I need to talk about is that in my own main mods, like the test mod, if I open the build.gradle, here's a trick. Before this, I had to go into the repc, remove those instances, coming back into my hard drive, remove instances, because I was using this hierarchy of Maven calls. And as you see, the repc is actually the last one, but now I'm adding the Maven local on the very top. The way Maven works is that it will try to read the artifacts from the repositories that you are informing to him from top to bottom. So basically, if it can find JiGui in Maven Central, then that's it. If no, it will try the Maven local. If no, it will try the fabric. If no, it will try the Daniel, and so on and so forth, until at the end, it will try repc. So if I have my own library on Maven local, it will not get it from repc. This is a trick that you can use. Order your Mavens the way you want to, and it will read and take everything in the order you want to. For example, now I can take it from here and put it at the end after, and put it after Maven local. It will work because first, it will try to look into Maven local. If we have the library there, that's okay. It will not go and try anywhere else. If the library is not in Maven local, then it will try the repc. Cool. Now, I need to push to Maven local. Don't use this push all because it will push to repc. Push to Maven local. When it's done, I should see that the GUI here again. It shouldn't take time. And you see that we have the GUI. Also, take note that under my build folder, the way I structured these tasks, it will add the built JiGui. However, my JiGui build, if I right click and modify run executions, modifying executions options, add before launch, you see that I already have a call to the clean task. Now that we have our library inside Maven local, we need to resync our test mod. However, this is my personal habit. I'm not sure if it's needed or not, but under your project.gradle loom cache, you have this folder that is netfabric something, and it's starting with Jiraiya, then GUI. In my case, that's jiraiya.gui, and other libraries that I'm depending on. So here I want to remove this GUI stuff. If I delete it, let the indexing work and detecting the framework so that the project folder update itself. As you see, I don't have any instance of my library anymore. Now I can go back and right click on my mod and say sync Gradle and let the syncing work. Of course, I have my sync build window on the second monitor. Normally you have it below here where I'm looking at my run log, and the build is successful already. As you see, saving project settings, detecting Minecraft, and finally indexing. And it looks like we are golden. So if I right click and reload from disk again, you see that it says detecting framework, indexing, and finally, there we go. The GUI shows up. So now if I run the game, it should work. That's the whole thing. That's the whole point here. So I will run the client and wait until the game comes up. Before I jump into the game, I double checked that my JiGui access widener is already commented. And of course, in our test mode, we removed our access widener, so we don't have it anymore. Now I will clear my log file. I will move into the game, and if everything works, now I should be able to look into the second block and open it, and I will see my widget showing up. The water is correct, and you see the draw tooltip is okay. Everything now works without the need to use access wideners, and we already fixed the background and everything else. Now I can take a look at my own code, and we see that inside init, this is how you can test things, by the way. I have this single fluid tank that returns 3 buckets of water as capacity, and then I make a transaction and I insert water 2 buckets, and then I will commit. This is a very dangerous thing that I'm doing here right now. This is just for test, because I'm not checking if the container can accept water, if it has enough space or not. I'm mimicking stuff just like how you would do it inside a unit test. Basically, I'm defining a tank with 3 buckets space, so I know that it's empty. Then immediately I'm putting 2 water buckets. That's okay. And finally, I'm adding the widget directly in the init. Take note, it's happening in the init and not in draw background or foreground or any other place. And this guy is using the X position of the user interface, and the Y of the user interface adds 5 pixels to each one of them. And then it says use the default textures for this tank, and the supplier for the position is actually handler get entity position get position, and it works because handler is our screen handler and it has this get block entity. And finally, I can build so that it returns the widget as a drawable, and I'm adding that drawable. From this point forward, I don't need to do anything with this drawable. Basically, if I add fluid into the container or remove fluid from the container in any shape or any form inside the block entity, it will update itself, because this fluid widget is actually drawing itself in the render call, as you see in here. This is a render call, and it's not the render foreground or render background, so it's constantly updating itself and drawing itself like so. Now, if I want to make sure that everything works, for example, now I can say a new, I don't know, let's go with gradient indicator widget, and here, as you see, instead of this, I will say new gradient widget dot builder. Now the builder should ask for the X and Y, or may not. So we say dot, oh yeah, color A actually will be from our constants. So inside our constants, I have this indicator colors. So I will go with indicator colors dot, let's go with something like dark red as color A. This is the bottom color. The top color will be indicator colors dot, I will go with lime, and then instead of color A, I can go with colors dot direction will be vertical, so I will say widget direction, actually bottom to top, and then dot, let me see, orientation will be widget orientation dot vertical. Let's break it so that I can see everything. We set the colors, we set the direction, we set the orientation, we say dot. Now amount supplier, for the supplier I will send in the, I don't know, 50 or make it 60. What is wrong here? This will not work. So I will say int amount equals to 60, int capacity equals to 100. Here we say that we want the amount dot capacity supplier. It will return capacity. What is wrong here? It needs to be long. Okay. Derp. And at the end, of course, at the end of everything, we can call build. However, in here, I want to assign the textures, or actually fill rect. So fill rect, we will go with this dot 5. Now remember, it's 16 pixels, so it will be 21. Let's make it 26. The y will be this dot y plus 5. The width will be 14. The height will be 61, I think. Now remember, right now I don't have any background. So if I just run it in the game with debug mode, I should see just a gradient color. We don't have any background there because we didn't add any background here. I think, as you see, if I want to, I can add the background, or I can directly draw a solid texture there. Same goes for this guy. This doesn't have any background. Okay, if this works, drawing a simple background is trivial. All we want to see is the colors being gradient and showing up. And now if I play with this amount, it should work. Let's go into the world and let's open this window. And as you see, we have our gradient. However, it's exactly the opposite of have what I thought we will have. So thankfully we are in debug mode. So now I can say that, you know what, let's flip these two colors. The color one will be lime and the color two would be red. Let's do the hot swap. They should change the place. Of course, I need to reopen it. And it's not actually what I thought. Okay, that's it. Then let's go with 100. This should fill up everything. It's not actually updating itself unless I close and open it. Let's add 1 to the Y. If I remove this from here and add it to the foreground, or maybe the render call, let's go into the render call. The main reason I'm not seeing things different is that I'm defining the amount inside the init. If I had been wise and moved these two up here, then inside the render, for example, I can say amount equals to 60. This should actually change the code everywhere. Now, one more thing is the coloring. And if I, for example, right now run this, it failed because I moved the values out. So let's keep that inside here for time being. Let's comment that line and run so that the hot swap works. And then I need to go back and the amount should be 60. What I want to see is that this dark color should remain and the green color should reduce toward being a darker green. And that's the case. So all I know now is that inside our gradient, we need to swap things around. So for example, the fill gradient, this should be color end, and this should be, basically these two should be swapped, and this should be color end, this should be color one, and this should work, you know. Now that I think about it, actually it makes sense because the color end is at the end of drawing. As I said multiple times, Minecraft draws things from top to bottom. So this place is the color end and the top one is the color start. So of course we need to flip things around. So I will rename this guy to color top. This makes much more sense now. Changing this here means that we need to go back and again push to Maven, update our repository. So I will close this and at the same time I will take these two out here. So it will become 100 at the start. Now I should be able to play with it inside the render and see the result of that change continuously. But as I said, now we need to remove things from our Maven. And I did it on the second monitor, so you didn't see that. And finally, I will push this to Maven local. And as I'm waiting for that in draw background, after the draw background, actually, I will say screen utils.draw texture. For the context, the texture that I want is digital indicator. If it shows, it will not, because I just screwed things up, I think. Digital indicator textures, and doesn't know where to down. Okay, so let's just import things. Again, inside Gradle, Loom Cache, Remapped Mods, JiGui, delete that, wait for everything to finish, and now just to sync Gradle. And of course, those errors are indicating that things are not working. So it did update itself. However, you see that things are not behaving. If you ever came face to face with this, just right click on your project and say reload from disk. It will detecting the Minecraft. It will detect your library now again. And as you see, things should work after the indexing is done. Now this thing obviously needs an import dot. Now I need the normal background and I will go with dark. Actually, instead of this, I think I can use the fluid widget. No, not the widget. What did I name my class? Fluid container. Textures dot normal dot background.id. So that's the texture. Then for the X and Y, I will copy the values from this one on top. So I will go with the rect is this 26. So this dot X plus, actually I will go with 25. I'm not gonna use the X and Y from the texture because I know they are 0 already. This dot Y plus, I did go with 6, I think. No, I did go with 5. This should become 6 actually. And this should be 5. Then the width will be 26 by 61. Actually, I can use the texture now. So I will get that. And this should be U actually, not the V, yeah? Dot U, dot V, then the width, then the height, then the texture width and texture height. Don't forget, we are drawing the background first. Then we are adding drawables. So right now I did add my background for this gradient. And now we can go with the debug mode so that We can both adjust the textures if we need to and play with our value inside render and see the different result. Also, if you ever want to play with this tank, you can move it outside of the init in top and make it, and then inside the init you will adjust it, for example, with 1 bucket of water, and then inside the foreground render wherever you may be able to play with the amount and just adjust the amount. Because it has already water in it, then you can simulate anything you want. Of course, it's not transactions, but it will work. So if everything works right now, our bar should be 60% full, not 100%. Ready? Go. And it's 60. And of course, as I said, now we can do adjustments. Like for example, for this guy, the rect should be 27, I think. We'll let this forward and fix everything. And I didn't run in debug mode. Hooray. Now you see this delta tick. We can play with it, and I will show that to you when the game comes up, especially now that we have the tank outside of the init. We can totally play with this delta tick and make things much more interesting. Let's see what we have. Although in init, I did transfer 2 buckets of water, because now in render, I'm setting it to be 1 bucket of water. We have 1 bucket of water, and this is a little bit offsetted. So it was actually 26. But then this is 16. My bad. Okay, let's do the hot swap. The Y should be okay. Of course, the hot swap needs this. Yeah, it filled it. Now, if I play with this value and make it, for example, I don't know, 95% and do the hot swap, you should see that it fills up. Go with 100% and we fill the whole thing. Now, I'm 1 pixel on top. Let's go with this.y plus 7. And here for this, we will go with 6. Hot swap. And we are adjusted to the other widget around ourselves. Now, as I said, we can play with this delta tick. If I multiply 100 by math helper, not the one from my library, goddammit, from Minecraft, dot sin. Now, sin gets a value, anything, and it returns a number between -1 and 1. However, if I now say math helper dot absolute, now we are converting it back from being 0 to 1. And finally, we say math helper dot, actually, let's do something easier. Let's go with integer. That. So we will go from 0 to 1. Let's do the hot swap. And as you see, it's jittery, but it will try to turn up. However, the problem is that this delta tick is something not proper for playing with this thing. So instead, if I say that, hey, you know what? Okay, for this, I need to, rerun the game. Yeah. I will say, actually, I should be able to do this. Instead of this, I should be able to get my hand on handler.getBlockEntity. Can I get the ticks from here? Yes, I can. Hooray. Boom. And it didn't work. So apparently we are not increasing ticks because I forgot that my block entity is not tickable. Yeah. Okay, so it's always 0. Okay, then I will do this way. Int frames equals to 0. All I will do at each render, I will say frames plus plus, and I will use frames here. Of course, this means that now I need to rerun or debug again. So let me do it and I will come back. As you see, it's too fast. It's really too fast. So what if I divide this by 100? I don't know, any number, it will work. And by the way, let's go with 100F. So again, do a hot swap. I want to slow this thing down. As you see, it's now going all the way up and back down, and you're going in a ping pong way. Okay, so I can do the same thing for the water. I need to cast to double this, to a long this time, and I will say the fluid buckets, but the capacity was 3 fluids. And then let's make it, I don't know, 150, a little bit slower. I will get the whole thing, paste. And instead of 115, I will go with 3 times bigger number. This means that we are reducing our speed even more. Let's do the hot swap. And it did fail. Why? Multiply by this number. Correct. Then close it here. Now we are correct. Okay. And as you see, we slowed down the fullness of things, and we are slowly increasing the water amount, and then we will get close to that full value. There we go. We are not getting actually the full value, as you see, because we are hitting that full capacity, but immediately we are reducing it because of the sine wave and how the sine wave is working. There we go. We have our textures, we have our widgets. If you want to give another try to another thing, for example, I don't know, an energy widget, that's the same deal. You just add two more variables here. For example, let's call this gradient amount, gradient capacity, and then you can have energy amount, energy capacity, and just add your drawable. This time it will be a drawable and a new indicator widget builder. What was the widget? Textured indicator. Okay, so textured indicator widget dot builder. Again, for the x and y, I will go with this dot x plus. Now we went 21 toward the right. We want another 21, so it will be 47. This dot y plus, again, we go with 6, I think. Yes. And then after that, we can add the calls. We go with, let me see, is energy, and it should do everything. Dot build. Here we want the capacity. So capacity supplier, again, I will go with the same thing with the gradient one. So it's the capacity. And then the amount supplier will be the amount. Hotstrap failed. Yeah, because we added another drawable in the init. This will be amount G for gradient, capacity G, and then I will have the amount energy. This will be amount gradient, energy, and energy. And here this is amount gradient. I will copy it. I will paste it. This is amount energy, but I will go with maybe half the speed of that one, a little faster than the water one. And now I can actually relaunch the game. I had to stop the debug mode because I added a drawable inside init, but now I have everything that I can test. And don't think that a unit test is easier than this, because in unit test, again, you need to define a tank and everything else. The only difference is that instead of seeing anything visual, you make an assertion that the value should be something else. For example, I don't know, the amount should be this or anything else. In case of graphical stuff, it is not as simple as you think. What we are doing is a much more solid way of testing anything graphical compared to unit tests. Now, don't forget, you can get the whole code from repository, and GitHub repository's link is inside Discord, and the link for the Discord is inside the video description. So go into the video description, join the Discord, and you'll get access to the link for the repository. Also, tell about the channel to your friends and help the channel grow by advertising it yourself, and give feedback to your friends. You know, hey, I know this channel, this is good to have, and being subscribed. And god damn it, we have same problem we had with water here inside our energy. But as you see, other than the height problem, the bar is actually working correctly. We only need to add the height so that we start from bottom. And again, this is working. And funny enough, because we didn't add any suffix, here the suffix says null. Anyhow, things are working. And the 1000 separator is working also, worth mentioning that. So I will fix that draw below, and I think I need to do the same thing for anything else actually that is using this, although it looks like this one is behaving properly because it's using a rectangle. Anyway, the water and the indicator, textured indicator, the textured indicator needs to mimic what we had in the water. So let's open that one. And when I'm drawing the indicator, as you see, I'm just going to the indicator Y and then minus up. So here I need to add the indicator height. Then I go up. And this will fix this bizarre behavior and move from bottom, move up, and then draw from there. But the animations are okay. And as you see, we are not scaling up and down actually. The image is not stretching or, I don't know, squeezing. It's just working perfectly fine. I'm happy with the result. The energy, I think I need to add a suffix there. Let's see. Do we have a suffix here when we are drawing things? Yeah. So when I say is energy, I forgot one thing. At the end, I need to say that, hey, dot suffix is capital E as energy, and that would be it. Also in gradient, when I'm adding suffix, I can assign the suffix to be an empty value so that I don't see that null value there. And I think I did it here. That's the fixing of our widgets. Now, the color widget is similar to the gradient widget. The gradient widget was using two colors. Because of the flipping of the colors, we had to work and tweak it. Now we are happy with everything. Also, I want to make sure that if we full up everything, the pixels are perfect. So I did see the animations. Let's skip them. I will copy them. Then I will put them under comment. And here I will use just the hard-coded values so that we don't have any animations. So this one will be 3 buckets of water. This one will be 100. And this one will be 100. Now, if I hot swap this, these two should fill up. And of course, this one is a little bit different. There we go. It's up, but you see that we are pixel perfect. So whenever I'm using sin call on the math, they don't hit the top value, but here now we are full and it is working. Only thing remaining is that I need to move this thing down and by pushing into Maven. Fortunately, the color thing should work, but don't forget, right now we are checking vertical. So a correct move would be to add another vertical for the solid color for the testing. And then I should add 2 horizontal things here, one for the gradient, one for the solid color, and check those 2. And basically this will work with whatever color you set. And I already have few colors and tweaking them are really nice. However, right now I shouldn't be able to do things. Actually, I should be able to do it here because right now, instead of dark red, let's go with darkest purple, hit hot swap, but it will not show up immediately. I just need to close and open. And this is the darkest purple. You won't see any good transition because purple to green is not good. But if I use purple here and do a hot swap again, you see this nice purple gradient. And honestly, I think gradient thing is a nice thing to have, although few people mentioned that they would drop the concept, but I think it's cool. Honestly, you should be aware that each time you are drawing the widget, you are calling 4 different lerps and 4 lerp calculations to get that top color. But 4 lerps inside a hardware these days is nothing big because something like Unity 3D character animation and character movement uses much more complex math every single frame. So having 4 lerps just to lerp the color for the gradient is not a big deal. And honestly, you have the option for drawing the texture, so that's that. And I will add the horizontals and check them and make sure that they work. If you like these videos, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and turn on that bell so that when I publish a new video, you will get informed. Have fun, everyone. Bye.